The Toyota Foundation International Grant Program Project Reports. Let's talk about empathy, conversations between the grantees from Grant Project Part 2, The Power of Design. As the director of Issue Plus Design, I am the leader of a project called Decarbonized Town Building. I was born in 1995 in Shiga Prefecture. After graduating from the prefectural high school, I went to University of Sussex in England, a small university in Brighton, and graduated from the School of International Development, where I studied so-called development of developing nations. After that, I was involved in research in Denmark and the Netherlands, and then became involved in this current initiative. My name is Camille from Republic. Nice to meet you. My specialty is urban design, but before that, I was actually doing urban geography, researching the impact of urban planning, etc. for a long time. As you can see here, before joining Republic, where I am currently working, I was based in Barcelona, Spain, doing research on urban planning, and during the latter half of my stay there, I attended a design school, Institute of Advanced Architecture of Catalonia, or IAAC, Elisava, where I studied urban planning and started shifting my career to the urban design and planning.
自分のキャリアを移してきたというような、そういう経緯があります。で
Since 2019, I relocated myself to Republic's Fukuoka base, and I'm currently leading a project called Satsuma Future Commons in Kagoshima Prefecture, which I will introduce later on. And I'm also the leader of this grant project. In the Asian context, are you saying that, for example, Japanese crafts and monozukuri may actually have value that could make a very significant contribution to something like a circular economy? Yes, that's right. In the design community from the Asia-Pacific region, local wisdom settled in the area is one of the key words, and our game also embeds such thoughts. That I will explain later on. For example, when considering whether the consumption of organic food brought in from overseas really has a low environmental impact or not, I thought that circular economy captured by environmental engineering so far has unexpectedly underestimated the local lifestyles and technologies. So this is an undefined idea to revisit climate change and incorporate such things.
そういった気候変動への取り組みとかってやってみませんかっていうようなぼんやりしたアイデアですね。本当はやっぱ
I think it is very important to go to the field and see and hear what is happening, but in the case of us, in times like this, it is impossible for all of us to go to the field each time when we are trying to spread this research method or circular design method in Asia. So I think the challenge of this project is to see how far we can go in the initial phase of the project by making full use of digital technology. We spent a considerable amount of time designing the research, but thanks to the adequate discussions and design, the project went quite smoothly once it started.
設計できたおかげで始まってからはかなりスルーッとスムーズにいったっていうようなそんな経緯もありますね。
I was very careful to explain the premise of the project appropriately, and I was very conscious of speaking adequately. If the part is not conveyed, the language difference will limit what can be conveyed and what can be understood.
なんて言うんだろう、伝えられることも受け取れることもすごい狭まってしまうじゃないですか。
The amount of time spent explaining the project may take longer, but I was very conscious of taking the time to speak so that the participants could understand the project in depth and to communicate as much as possible in advance. By going to the site, you can see, touch, and feel the atmosphere, but online, it is very difficult to inform and understand each other deeply. Yes, that's right. We have a keyword that we share in common, which is design. In terms of design, the kind of design we are dealing with is what might be called design in a broad sense. We think that the design we handle includes not only graphics and products, but also things that encourage people to change their behavior, to have experiences, and evoke empathy. So you decided to use card game as one of the points of reference for this project. Games are very reproducible. It is very difficult to listen to what someone else has said or hear at second hand and convey that idea to someone else. But the format of the card game is very well established, and if the rules are also well defined and ways to proceed the game is decided, then I believe that anyone can operate this system. I think this concept is shared with your project too.
そこあるなと思っていて、これは神尾さんたちのプロジェクトとも共通するのかなと思うんですけど。
As you mentioned earlier, it is meaningless if only experts know about the situation or if it is only practiced by those who knows or understands. So we use the card game method so that anyone can experience and anyone can participate. We have been working long to train facilitators for this. So that is our output or the so-called exit this time as well.
やっぱこれ
So far, when dealing with environmental issues, especially in the case of citizens' activities, we were mainly focusing to do things that people don't necessarily want to do, such as holding themselves back or doing their best to sort out waste. But I think it is probably difficult for people to continue doing things that they don't really want to do. So I think it is quite a role for designers to create some kind of a mechanism in our daily lives that makes us excited and makes us want to work on it while having fun.
まずは楽しい
First, we want people to enjoy the game, get into the world of the card game, and think about how they should act by becoming the player.
プレイヤーになりきることでどういうふうに行動すればいいかっていうのを考えられるっていうのは、
I think the system makes it easier for people to think because they are given rules and a worldview.
っていうのはすごくあるかなっていうのと、
Also, as I interact with Taiwanese people in various ways, what I think they are very good at is changing the system itself, and I think that is quite important. It is not about frequently turning the electricity off or lowering the temperature of the air conditioner or being patient or deal with what is in front of you. I think it is a very important approach to have both individual and community perspectives when considering what can be done to reduce local emissions and create a decarbonized community in the first place.
だから脱炭素な街づくりをするために何ができるのかっていう個人と地域みたいな視点の両方を持つのがなんかすごい大事だなっていうのはやりながら思いますね。
At first, everyone tries to do only what is in front of them, but they gradually find themselves not achieving their own goals nor of the community, so they start interacting and people start exchanging advices. And the atmosphere of the region and community will completely change before and after the game. I think it is very important to be able to experience that. Otherwise, people will not be able to reintegrate into the real world, and even if they listen to a lecture, they might not feel things as their own challenge. So, as the entry point, I think we created a nice environment.
なんかやっぱ楽しい
I think there is a lot to learn while having fun.
あるなと思っていて、
I think Japan has a strong culture of illustration in the entertainment field compared to other countries.
ところはやっぱ他の国に比べて
By using illustrations that can be used not only in Japan but also in other countries, it could reduce language dependence and make our communication easier. I think people can understand each other regardless of which country or region they are from.
っていうところかなっていうふうに思っているので、この
This card is basically understood by just looking at the illustration. I put a lot of emphasis on that. In addition, I try to avoid using technical terms. For example, the unit for this banknote is 50 million Zs, which stands for zero emissions. I personally think providing such a little chuckle will make the experience fun.
入れていくみたいなのが結構なんか楽しいところなんじゃないかなって個人的に
なるほどなるほど
思ってます。
Actually, I really think that Japanese subculture is quite design-oriented in essence.
デザインっぽいなって僕はすごく思っていて、で
Conversely, I don't think there are many such approaches in Europe. In Europe, people are more conscious of a cause as a common social issue. And while I think this is wonderful, I also think it necessary to explore other ways of doing things. Especially when we enter the phase of universalizing this way of thinking, I have seen while living in Europe that simply advocating a cause may not work in order to move the mass in some cases, and I believe that games and entertainment elements are actually necessary.
僕はヨーロッパに住みながらやっぱ見てきたところもあって
I believe that there is room for Japan to send out more message regarding this kind of
み
thing.
たいなものって結構実はめちゃくちゃ必要だなと思ってて、なんかそういうのってなんかもっと日本から出していくっていうか余地がすごいあるなと思って。
While there are many examples of very advanced activities in Asia, I think there are many cases that are not verbalized into a language. It is the Western cultures that has excelled at verbalization. I personally think that it is very important to reinterpret and re-edit the fact that what we have not seen as design or activities for so-called environmental issues are essentially related, and that information on how to communicate such activities to people outside is still widely diffused.
伝わる活動だなっていうことにこう再解釈するとか再編集するってことが結構大事で、それをどうやって外の人とかに伝えていくのかっていうことの情報がやっぱまだ結構拡散してるなっていうのはすごいこう個人的に思っていて。まあ特にやっぱデザイナーの
As a designer's role, it may be necessary in some cases to properly interpret such things in a way that is easy to understand, or to not show them too easily in some cases. In fact, through this project, I got the feeling that the future role of me, Mori-san, and other designers of our generation is to reinterpret and re-edit the existing ideas once again, and think of how we could do so, rather than designing new things.
デザイナーと言われる人たちの今後の役割なのかなっていうのはなんかこう漠然としてます。
This is what I am feeling by going through this project.
感じているところではありますね。
There are times when I feel like using difficult words or wanting to say a lot. But looking back now, I realize that it is very important to communicate in a way that people can understand and to have them think that it is their turn to spread the action. This is one new awareness I got from this project.
ことがすごいこう重要だなっていうのは、なんかこう今回のプロジェクトで一つ新しい気づきだったなっていうのは思います。
I would like to take on the challenge of developing this project on full scale in Asia if I have the
み
chance.
たいなっていうふうに思っていますし、
I personally would like to take it to Western countries too.
個人的にちょっと思っていて、
はい
In fact, I believe that there are not many examples of methods and programs for solving social issues and problems that spread from Japan to the West.
なんかちゃんとこうヨーロッパでありアメリカに広がったのって、なんかそんなにないんじゃないのかなって思っていて、
I think that subcultures and entertainment spread to other countries, but I don't think there have been many proposals spread from Japan in terms of problem-solving approach.
うちのこう提言みたいなものとかっていうのは、なんかそんなにないんじゃないのかなと思っていて、で
I think there is still room for Japan to expand such programs using gamification methods.
みたいなものはやっぱりまだまだ広げていける可能性があるんじゃないのかなっていうのはちょっと思ってます。
日本はまだ比較
I
的
think Japan still has an advantage in the world, relatively speaking, because the functions that needed for essential manufacturing supply are still located in close proximity, such as in Southeast Asia and China. Conversely, I think there are still very few manufacturing bases in Europe. I have a hypothesis that we should think of new designs from here.
とはやっぱこっちで考えるべきなんじゃないかってなんかそういう仮説もちょっとある。都市デザイン
When it comes to urban design, I think it is difficult to suddenly handle a scale of a city because the number of stakeholders will double. So, for example, if we can design a new way to dispose garbage in the area or a new container for a garbage dump, we can do it in a year or so if we try hard.
ないなと思ってて、なんかそういう
I think it is very important to make many small approaches like that and steadily build them up one by one. I would like to be conscious of the fact that we should not just talk about our visions and communicate, but also break them down into small actionable situations.
小さい実態に落とし込んでいくっていうことを僕は 意識してなんかやっていきたいなって思ってますね。
I think we need to increase the number of people who can do this, and I personally think it is the opposite of the international development to be able to hand over some kind of a format and work together with everyone. I feel that there is hope that we approach the mainstream from bottom up rather than from top down. That is what I'd like to challenge in this program.
このプログラムでなんかチャレンジをしたいなっていうふうに思っているので、
I'm so happy that there are people wanting to challenge themselves in this program and become facilitators. It is crucial for those who got interested in the program to want to do it and want to give it a try themselves. Because the challenge is large, there are many things that can be done and need to be done, but there is no point in talking about what cannot be done or chasing ideals. We need to work in a workable way in the area where there is more chance to win.
でも勝ち筋があるところを頑張っていくっていうのがすごい大事かなって